talk about another concept, which is delta T, the change in temperature through various locations in the computer room. I'm going to spend a few slides on this because this is really provides some great insight, and it's something that you can easily measure at your site and find out how much opportunity there is for improvement. So delta T is simply the change in temperature, and if you ask a facilities person what the delta T is in the computer room, they'll tell you it's the change in temperature through the cooling units. If you ask an IT person, they'll probably talk about the change in temperature through the IT equipment. Both are true. Those are locations where the temperature changes in the room, but there's actually four. There's two other locations, and the two others are really important to notice and measure because they're what give you the greatest insight. So here's location one, the change in temperature through the IT equipment. Air goes in the intake, warms up, carries the heat out of the server, and returns it to the cooling unit. Here's the other common delta T, the temperature drop going through the cooling unit. But then 2 and 4, these other delta T's they should be very close to 0. There's really no reason that if everything is done well that the air should warm up from the time that it leaves a cooling unit to the time that it gets to an intake of a server. And there's really no reason that the air leaving a server should cool off before it gets back to a cooling unit. However, it does. So here's let me show you another picture of what's actually happening in the computer room. We have the change in temperature through the cooling unit, and then it warms up substantially. There's still a lot of data centers out there where the supply temperature is in the high 50s or low 60s, and yet intake temperatures to the IT equipment is in the high 70s or even sometimes in the low 80s. And so the obvious reason for the air warming up is that hot air has mixed in somewhere, either come through the cabinets, over the tops of the cabinets, around the ends of the aisles, and mixed in with this cold supply air before it got to the intakes. And then we have the air leaving the servers, and it comes out often near 100 degrees, and yet return air temperatures to cooling units are often in the high 60s, low 70s, and so that's another very substantial drop in temperature. Comes out at 100 and returns, say, even at 75 degrees. That's still a substantial drop. These other delta T's, the change in temperature from supply to intake and the change in temperature from exhaust to return, these should be around 5 degrees. It's kind of the point of diminishing return. Ideally, these would be close to 0. And in some sites, they are very close to 0. With the more containment installed, then the better the balancing of the airflow, the closer these temperatures will be to 0. So the goal is to get as close to 5 degrees as possible. And really easy to go measure those temperatures and identify where you are. If you can get your site into the 5 degree range, then you're going to be in the top 20% of efficient sites in the world. Not very many sites are getting there, but a number have been able to do this well.